Hi, I'm your Gemini friend. So we're going to talk about Lilith in Sagittarius or in the 9th house. When it comes to whether it's in the sign or the house, you want to look at the sign as the expression of Lilith, like the personality that she would express herself through. And the 9th house is going to be the area of life where this is relevant for you, which is quite an interesting one because this is having to deal with philosophy, the bigger picture, our belief system, and the way that we explore the world and turn our experiences into wisdom. Sagittarius energy has so much to do with freedom and with always wanting more because it sees the vastness of everything. It sees just how many options there are in the world, and in its most positive expression, it just wants to explore. It's very open and accepting. But this is Lilith, and this has a lot to do with where we feel shame, rejected, circumstances early on in life that caused us to essentially shut off parts of ourselves that were maybe not helpful as far as survival. Maybe the people around us saw these things and made us feel like for some reason they weren't acceptable. They weren't something that we could openly express. So there's a lot of repression, a lot of self-rejection having to do with our Lilith placements. And with this one being in the 9th house, at the very end of the 9th house is the beginning of the 10th, the midheaven. So if your Lilith is very close to the midheaven, this can also come up in a similar way to parts of the 10th house expression, where anything conjunct the midheaven tends to be really relevant in our public image, the way that people see us. So having Lilith conjunct your midheaven can actually make it extremely relevant to how you're seen, to the way that you're expressing your publicly seen parts. This can be a part of your legacy. But when it comes to the 9th house and Sagittarius, this is potentially restrictive religion, restrictive philosophies coming from a family that believed differently than you naturally do, maybe having clashes between your own internal philosophy and what was given to you, or even having really strongly opinionated whoever was in authority, whoever had power over you early on in life could have taught you really strict rules when it comes to right and wrong, because this is representing a rejection of personal truth and of that desire to find truth. This can be expressed through rejecting religion, philosophy, things like that altogether, or it can be adhering to really strict rules and being afraid to break outside of that. What's most important with this is that you are operating from a place of your personal truth, because everyone sees the world in a different way, and that's necessary. We are all contributing to society and existence with our own beliefs when they're coming from an authentic place. When we are fully living out who we are and believing the way that we are, which can always change. There's nothing rigid about this, ideally, but there can be a lot of rigidity here in a sign that wants to be expressed so freely. Sagittarius wants to be free to experience things and maybe change their opinion, maybe change their belief system based off of new experiences. It should be very open to change. But this placement, whether it's through your upbringing or something causing like a warped version of truth, but this can represent like changes in faith throughout your life, a constant desire to find more and to understand more. But what happens with Lilith is that it distorts the energy. When it is unhealthily expressed, Sagittarius energy can be the very exact opposite of this, where it's actually strongly judgmental, strongly wanting to control the ideas of others, though it comes through in a way where it's like trying to teach. Sagittarius is an incredible energy to have for teaching, but it needs to be coming from a place of openness and of acceptance that there are different ways to see and experience the world. That is what the energy is about. That's why it's related to travel, to other cultures. It's all about what is outside of your comfort zone, what you don't know yet, and the idea of exploring it. But of course, this placement can result in fear regarding experiences outside of yours. You could find that when you are traveling, when you're away from home, you actually feel much more free and able to express yourself. But there could also be a fear of even getting into that sort of situation in the first place. Possibly fear projected to you by your parents, your guardians, that maybe they taught you other cultures were wrong in some way, if they had a really strict view on that. And this can even result in having issues with authority figures. Because again, Sagittarius is all about freedom. It just wants the experiences, and it wants to feel free to have as many experiences as possible and to believe what it wants to believe. So there could be an extreme aversion to anyone trying to tell you what to do, just a real rebelliousness against maybe belief systems, maybe just anything holding you down at all. I could see this resulting in a fear of imprisonment, maybe even claustrophobia in a way. And this one, like the 12th house in Pisces, can also point to cults, to maybe being attracted to strong belief systems, especially if they feel like they're really getting somewhere, like it's something really helping you grow. So it's really important that you are coming from a place of recognizing your intuition, the way that you feel about things, and just how certain ideas like sit in your body, because this could be a tendency to latch on to things that feel hopeful, things that make you feel like you have some sort of control over your beliefs. Say if you grew up in one strict religion, you could be attracted to maybe a teacher who's teaching something that sounds good on paper, but you know how certain guru type energies can be, false teachings, just something to look out for. I mean, with a really difficult, afflicted Lilith, this can even be expressing itself through false teachings, desiring to be seen as a spiritual person, somebody who knows things and has people who follow and listen because of that strong desire to teach. And I don't think any of you are going to be trying to form cults, but it's just something associated with the energy. But on the flip side, this can also result in a real difficulty in standing up for your own beliefs, which is difficult because it certainly points to suppressing something within yourself. If you find yourself in situations where everyone around you is pushing you to believe a certain way and you don't, it's very important, if nothing else is possible, at least recognize and acknowledge within yourself what you do truly believe. It's important not to push it down or reject it, because this just distorts the energy. And this can also, it can result in feeling really insecure about your own relationship with your beliefs. You might feel that you need validation from other people regarding things like this. Maybe you feel like you're automatically a bad person and you need other people to affirm that you're not. This can definitely come from growing up in households that are very punitive, focusing on like sin and how bad you are. That's never healthy. And of course, this can result in like total extreme aversion to the very concept of any religions, any sort of teachings. You could be completely like atheistic, even just cynical about life itself. And Sagittarius it's ruled by Jupiter. This is the most optimistic energy. So if you find yourself being a very pessimistic person, there's definitely something to address regarding what you believe to be true. And I genuinely believe that different people can have different truths. It seems less important to me to find one overarching, just like, this is it, this is true, this is what it really is. And it's more important for you to find your own personal relationship with that. And also not to judge other people's way of being, because when you're judging somebody else, you are ultimately judging yourself. Security in your own truth is really all that you need. There's no reason to worry about how other people are living their lives, aside from extreme circumstances, obviously. Because one thing with this energy in its distorted form is that it can assume that everyone wants to be taught, that everybody needs to understand things in the same way that you do. Say you have a really wonderful relationship with your belief system, with your truth. If it feels urgent that you teach other people, make sure that they are also believing in the ultimate truth that you found, I would think that there's a little more something core to address there. Because when you are comfortably, securely understanding your existence in your own way, there should be a feeling of acceptance that everyone's going to do what they're going to do. And this doesn't mean not to teach. It's more about that sense of urgency, that sense of, I need to show other people. I need them to believe this too. I need them to. It's important to let other people learn their lessons and to reach their own conclusions on their own. Of course, giving them guidance, giving them information, nothing wrong with that. But people tend to be more receptive when they aren't being preached at or told the way to be. It's much more attractive. I say attractive, like attracting the attention of other people. If you just lead by example, live happily in your own way, if the people want to know how they can get what you have, they will ask. And in that case, they're just so much more open to it. There's a really fine line balance here when it comes to being such a good teacher with such a good understanding of things naturally and having willing students. It can be tough because I completely understand this impulse to want to make sure that everybody is also happy, that they understand things and that they feel that same security. And maybe this sounds hypocritical since I'm right here saying this. This is not my Lilith placement, but I figure if you've come to this video, then you're looking for the information. And another thing that is related to the 9th house, this is higher education, higher learning. So with Lilith energy here, there can be issues regarding schooling, maybe feeling like you just need more and more information and you just get more degrees, but never feel like you're ready to be done. Like, of course, this energy wants to learn more. That is a healthy expression of it. But if the desire to learn more is coming from a sense of insecurity, a sense of you need to understand more, then it's important to go within, because you can find so many things externally, philosophies, people's experiences, and what they are telling you that they've learned. But there's a point where that won't be satisfying anymore. And you have the answers inside you. You have your belief systems, what works for you. This is going to be coming from your soul, your higher self, your connection to the infinite wisdom that we all have a connection to. And mentioning the 12th house again, there's an interesting parallel here where the 12th house it's internal. It's very much about your relationship within yourself, but it's also about the connection that we have to infinite wisdom. The 9th house is more about looking outside, constantly expanding outwards rather than inwards. But it can't just keep expanding. It needs something core as an anchor. So just be aware, if you feel like you're always looking outside of yourself, that there is something to anchor you within. This might be vague, but it makes sense to me. But another way that this Sagittarius energy can be distorted is with the honesty and directness of the sign, where sometimes You can feel so much conviction in your message, and so strongly sure that it's going to just change the life of whoever hears it. And this strong attachment to this truth that can actually come out in a way that, I mean, it can offend people if it comes across as, I know the truth, your way is wrong, you know? This is never the intent. It's just that optimistic Sagittarius it's so accepting that it can warp this in a way where it's like assuming that other people will also be just as accepting, but at the same time, kind of hypocritical because it's forcing its message on someone. Sagittarius is associated with being blunt, with being harsh sometimes. So this is another thing to watch out for, because Lilith in this energy can definitely express itself in an incredibly harsh way that other people just aren't ready for. You might not even realize it. It's fire. It's so passionate. But again, it's willing students are so much more receptive. So it's just important to be careful that the way that you're saying things doesn't make it sound like this is it, I'm right and you're wrong. Giving it some lenience and also being teachable is important, because the student-teacher relationship, it shouldn't just be teacher gives information to student, student receives it. It should be like a conversation, because every student has their own experiences. They have their own beliefs and just their life, everything that they've gone through. There is so much to learn from every single person. This axis of Sagittarius and Gemini, the opposite signs, they balance each other so well because Gemini is so curious and so conversational. So it can really help to balance out the strong desire to give information that comes from Sagittarius. Because even just like, think about it, if you believe that somebody needs guidance, they very well might, but there's also always going to be a lot that they know that you don't. So just focus on the freedom of the energy, allowing other people to be freely themselves, and allowing that freedom within yourself. The less you judge other people's situations, the more you feel free to also exist without judgment. But there shouldn't be any shame in this. If you were taught early on in life by people with very strong opinions that this is how you reach people, you might have been taught that this is how you show somebody that you care. Say that this was the way that your guardians knew how to show you love, because maybe they were thinking from the viewpoint of, I want to make sure that this person is safe, that they're going to believe the right way, and you were given this information in a way that can definitely come across as harsh, but these can be learned behaviors. If you were shown love in that way, then you can also feel like you're giving love in that way and not even realize just how intense it can come across. But of course, Lilith, the distortion, it tends to go one way or the other. So the extreme approach, you might actually be somebody who is coming from the opposite side where you really need affirmation, maybe even other people telling you how to believe. Either extreme is going to be a distortion of Lilith, though. But ultimately, your motivation should be coming from a very personal place, not coming from a set of strict rules, the idea of needing to follow certain rules, but also not needing to be completely free with absolutely no boundaries or limits in the way that feeling closed off, even to the tiniest degree, feels threatening. The ideal way for this placement to be integrated and embodied is as a teacher, as an explorer, an adventurer, a philosopher, somebody who is always seeking more and healthily integrates this new information, these new experiences into true wisdom. Willing to teach anybody who asks, also willing to learn. This can indicate a lifetime of seeking, searching for more answers, more understanding, and there's nothing wrong with that. You'll never run out of more things to understand and to get to know and people to learn from. And if your upbringing was very harsh, if you had like strict religious, anything like that, it is important to recognize whether or not you're blaming this for any issues that you have, because if you are still stuck in a restrictive situation like this, it's important to at least acknowledge those shadow parts of yourself, the parts that might believe differently from how you were taught, the parts of you that want to live in an entirely different way. Acknowledge them, and when you are free, be free. But if you are out of the situation, just leave it behind. Learn from it, turn it into wisdom. Use it as an example of how not to treat other people, how not to go about spreading your message. Give yourself permission to be free, to leave that behind. Everyone's doing their best with what they have. And each new generation has more information, a greater understanding of the nature of reality. So just move forward, don't look back. Unless you want to and it feels good. But don't cling to any negative feelings, any harsh judgments of the people who harshly judged you. Don't be like them. So that's what I have to say about this placement. It's a really interesting one to me. So let me know what you think if you have this, or if you don't, if you have any thoughts on it. I do offer natal chart and synastry readings, though if you're watching this when the video comes out, they will be open again by the end of May. But thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful in some way. I love you. Bye.